Assalamu alaikum. I am Moni Akhtar, third year student of School of Prosthetics and Orthotics School, Bangladesh Health Profession Institute, CRP, Shavhar, Dhaka. Today my topic is normal gait cycle. A gait cycle is a period beginning with the initial contact of heel to the ground of one leg up to the subsequent contact between the heel and the ground of the same leg. As you see in this picture, it begins with the initial contact of one leg and it ends the same leg initial contact to the ground. In gait cycle has two phases. One is stance phase, another is swing phase. Stance phase complete 60% of total gait and swing phase completes 40% of the total gait. In stance phase, according to Rancho Los Amigos, has 5 phases: initial contact, loading response, mid stance, terminal stance, and pre-swing. And swing phase contain initial swing, mid swing, and the terminal swing. First one is the initial contact. Initial contact, it is the first phase of the gait cycle in stance phase. It covers 0 to 2% of total gait. 0 to 2% of total gait. In initial contact, foot touches to the ground and another foot is in the pre-swing. It is the double limb support, double limb phase. That means both the limb are in the ground, touches the ground. Objective. Initial contact objective. One is the stance start with a heel rocker. That means a heel is the fulcrum that acts to roll over as the plantar flexion. And another is the impact deceleration. Impact deceleration means reducing the impact by moving. That means first one is the stance with the heel rocker. As you in this picture, heel acts to roll over in the this is in this heel strike. Hip is in flexed position, knee is in extend position, and foot is in dorsiflexion position. This dorsiflexion reducing and going the plantar flexion, that time heel rocker helping. After that, the loading response. Before that, heel strike or initial contact ground reaction force, I want to share about the ground reaction force. Ground reaction force. In this heel strike, ground reaction force passes posterior to the anterior to the hip joint. That time hip flexion moment happen. That time hip extensor muscle, gluteus maximus muscle, and the hamstring muscle act eccentrically to hold the position. And then in the knee joint, that time ground reaction force passes posterior to the knee joint, and then knee flexion moment happen. That time knee extensor muscle, quadriceps, eccentrically control this flexion moment. After that, in ankle joint, ground reaction force passes posterior to the ankle joint. That time dorsiflexion moment happen, and that time ankle plantar flexor acts to control the dorsiflexion. After that, the loading response. Loading response, it is the second phase of the stance phase. It is the double stance of the gait cycle. In this phase, in loading response, reference limb are going to touch ground fully, and another limb is are going to the pre-swing phase. It covers 2 to 12% of the gait cycle. Objective of loading response. Loading response objective. Three objective in loading response. One is the shock absorption. That means by contacting with the heel, absorbing the total body weight, and the second was is accept weight, and then another is the preservation of progression. That as I said, in this loading response, reference limb are going to touch the ground fully. That time total body weight is in both leg. That means the accept the weight. In this loading response, ground reaction force passes in hip joint anterior to the hip joint. That time flexion moment happen. That time hip extensor, gluteus maximus and hamstring muscle contract eccentrically to control the hip flexion. And then in knee joint, ground reaction force passes posterior to the knee joint. That time flexion moment happen to the knee, and then at that time knee quadriceps control the angle of flexion. And then ankle joint, posterior to the ankle joint. That time posterior to the ankle joint. That time ankle is in 10-degree plantar flexion, and ground reaction force causes plantar flexion moment, and then which gets smaller as the body moves forward, and the ground reaction force comes close to the ankle joint. The dorsiflexion reduces in action until there is no action. Mid stance. It is the third phase of gait cycle. In stance phase, it covers 12 to 31% of gait cycle. In mid stance, foot going forward by stationary over the ankle, and another foot is in the mid swing position. In mid swing, in this swing, it starts going forward the reference limb, and another limb is in the swing phase. Objective of mid swing is the progression over the stationary foot. That means the progression at the tibia, and the another one is pelvic and trunk stability. In mid stance, pelvic and trunk stability is the more important. After that, ground reaction force. In mid stance, ground reaction force in hip joint, through the hip joint. That time hip no moment happen, and hip begins to extend as the ground reaction force moves posterior to the hip joint shortly after mid stance. And the knee joint, that time knee ground reaction force posterior to the knee joint. That time knee flexion moment happen, and then there is no quadricep action, but the soleus muscle may control the knee flexion. And in ankle, anterior to the ankle joint, that ground reaction force passes. That time ankle 5-degree dorsiflexion. The ground reaction force causes dorsiflexion moment. Dorsiflexion continues and controlled by the plantar flexors. After that, the terminal stance. It is the fourth phase of the gait cycle. Terminal stance. It is the fourth phase of gait cycle. It covers 31 to 50% of total gait in stance phase. It is the second single limb support of the phase. In this phase, reference limb is going to the pre-swing, and the another limb is in the terminal swing phase. In this phase, it begins in terminal stance phase. It begins with the heel rise and continues. The another limb is in the terminal swing. In terminal stance phase, ground reaction passes posterior to the hip joint. That time hip extension movement happen. The ground reaction force causes the extension movement. That time the iliacus and the psoas major control extension and initial flexion. After that, the knee, in this knee joint, ground reaction force passes anterior to the knee joint. The knee is in flex about 2 degrees, which is the maximum extension during the gait cycle. The ground reaction force causes the extension moment. The gastrocnemius muscle may active in preventing further extension. In this ankle joint, anterior to the ankle joint, that time ankle is in 15 degree dorsiflexion. The ground reaction force causes dorsiflexion moment. The plantar flexion make powerful contraction of push to the body forward. Pre-swing. It is the last stance phase, and also it is the terminal double stance double support phase. In this phase, contralateral foot contacts to the ground and another foot is in the toe off. In this phase, reference limb going to the initial swing and get preparation for the swing phase, and the another foot is touching to the ground. Objective of pre-swing phase. Objective is position for the limb for swing phase, and position the limb for the swing, and another is the accelerate progression. And the ground reaction force in the pre-swing phase are foot touches foot going to limb swinging the limb, and not touches the foot ever. That I mentioned that in stance phase are in contact to the ground all the limb, but in swing phase all the limb are in the swinging position. In this phase are the foot touches the ground is the terminal phase. In this phase, the in the hip joint ground reaction force passes posterior to the hip joint. That time hip extension moment happen, and then that time rectus femoris muscle are in the eccentric control actively the eccentric manner work. After that the knee joint, that time in ground reaction force in hip joint and also knee joint doesn't work. Also in the foot, only the foot. That time also knee in the flexion position. That time flexion continues due to the small ground reaction force movement and the plantar flexion of the foot, and then ankle. That time ankle is in 20 degree of plantar flexion. The plantar flexor muscle stop acting as soon as toe leave the ground. It controlled by the plantar aponeurosis. After that stance phase finish, and then swing phase start. First swing phase is the initial swing.
Ready, 1 to 3.
Initial swing. In initial swing, limb is limb is in the swinging position, that time going forward is going to clearance the floor by foot. In this, it is the 1/3 of the swing phase. It covers 62 to 75% of total gait. In this phase, no ground reaction force. Already foot are not in the touching position to the ground. In this phase, hip is in 10-degree extension and flexes as the hip flexor and accelerate limb forward. That time hip flexor muscle eccentrically control the limb going forward, and the knee is in 40-degree flexion and continues to flex under the pendulum action as the limb accelerate. The ankle is 20 degree of plantar flexion directly after toe off, then begins to dorsiflex under the action of the pretibial group of muscle. Mid swing. It is the second phase of swing phase. It contains 75 to 87% of the total gait. In this phase, limb is in the swinging position, and another one is the stance, going the stance, as you see in this. Mid swing. In this mid swing occur as the heel pass each other, the tibia vertical and go forward. It objective of the mid swing is the clear the foot and the limb advancement. Mid swing. In mid swing, hip is flex about 20 degree and continues to flex. And then in knee joint, the knee reaches about 65 of knee is about flexion, then begins to extend under the pendulum action. And then ankle has reached its neutral position and it's held there slight activity of the pretibial muscle. After that, the terminal stance. It is the last phase of the gait cycle. It covers 87 to 100% of the gait cycle. In this phase, foot going to preparation for the heel strike, and another limb is the advancing go forward. In this phase, the terminal swing phase, the hip reaches flexion and it is restrained by the gluteus maximus and the hamstring muscle eccentric contraction, and the knee flexor muscle eccentric contraction to go into the extension position. The ankle is still held the neutral position and action by the pretibial muscle. It goes to the neutral position of the ankle and it going to touch the foot. It's the complete gait cycle of the normal gait cycle. I already discussed about that. Thank you.